Hello，你好，欢迎回来，Welcome back to Wisdom Wednesday with Johnny Tiger. All right, I will admit that I got the date wrong yesterday during the Tactical Tuesday. Today is actually May 4th, Star Wars Day. Today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about watermelon. Now that sounds like it may be a boring concept or a boring topic, but Chinese people even made watermelon or buying watermelon somewhat of an interesting experience. And first, no, Chinese people did not invent watermelon. It actually started in Africa, I believe, and trickled into uh, that part of Asia, uh, somewhat through the Silk Road, back when the Silk Road was the same. Um, and it wasn't until the Song Dynasty, which is about 700 years ago, that a Chinese captive was captured by the northern barbarians, the Manchus and the tribe. Therefore, a Chinese diplomat was captured by these northern barbarians, and when he finally returned to China after being held captive for 15 years, he brought with him some interesting knowledge, and among these, one of these knowledge was how to grow watermelon, because apparently the northerners were growing watermelon before people in China were growing watermelon. So this guy returned to China and brought with him uh, information and knowledge on how to grow these delicious things, and it slowly became very popular throughout China. For the longest time, there was only two varieties of watermelon in China. One is uh, somewhat black, or it's so green that it's almost black in color, very ugly looking. It has these kind of raised veins that you can see on the surface of the watermelon. Uh, Chinese people used to call these the veiny black. Now, the veiny black were really delicious. However, because of their ugly appearance, they gradually got faded out, and now you can't find them anymore. They're no longer there. The other type was called the three white. The three white watermelon. It's really pale. It said the seed, the flesh, and the skin all were pale, this pale white color. Now that was the what's called the holy grail of watermelon for Chinese people. If you wanted to visit your friend and you wanted to bring them a watermelon as a gift, you had to bring the three white. If you brought the veiny black, a lot of time your friend would get insulted and offended, even though the black one was also very delicious. But people just really didn't like it because of how ugly it was. Yeah, who said that Chinese people weren't racist, eh? Uh, anyway, that's another topic for another day. Before we go any further, I want to leave you guys with a little bit of vocabulary because one thing I noticed is I during these Wisdom Wednesdays I talk a lot. I do tell a lot of customs and traditions and stories, but sometimes I neglect the vocabulary. Now, it is because I'm not sure how many of you actually are interested in learning this vocabulary. So sometimes I just think, heck, I'm just going to skip past them. So if you guys want to, you can leave me a comment. Leave in the comment section. Let me know. Let me know if you guys enjoy these vocabulary. If you are interested in learning any of these. Also, I will give this shout out again for my own podcast. If you are serious about wanting to learn Mandarin, want to learn more vocabulary, then please check out the Johnny Tiger Experience podcast, where there is an actual Mandarin learning section coinciding with the more traditional storytelling and folklore section. So you'll get a more complete education from the podcast itself. Watermelon in Mandarin is called xi gua. Xi gua, that's like XE. Xi is pronounced xi, and gua, GWA, like gua, like in guava. Xi gua. Now, I want to draw your attention to the word gua in particular, because this is used very widely in Chinese produce. Gua basically means melon, uh, melon-like vegetable, fruit. So I'll give you a few examples and you'll see a pattern. So xi gua is watermelon, basically wet melon. That's what it translates. Xi means like wet, soft, juicy. Uh, honeydew is called xianggua. Xiangwa. Xianggua means good smelling melon. Xianggua, that's honeydew. Uh, and pumpkin is called Nangua. Nungwa. Nangua. Nangua. I'm actually not sure what that nan is for. Uh, I will have to look into that. But again, it's a kind of gua, a kind of melon. Now we can move on to things that are clearly not melon, but are still using the gua word. For example, sweet potato is called di gua, Degwa, di gua, which translates to dirt melon. uh, Cucumber is called Huanggua, Hwungwa. Huanggua means yellow melon. Bitter melon. Bitter melon is called 苦瓜, Kugwa. 苦瓜. Ku actually does mean bitter. So that's bitter melon. 苦瓜. Uh, zucchini. That's an interesting one. Zucchini is called 茄瓜. 茄瓜, Chegwa, 茄瓜. And that kind of translates to tomato melon. I am not quite sure why it got that name, but 茄 is like the same word in 番茄, as in tomato. Now, there's another connotation or another meaning for the word gua, uh, which sound the same. It's still GWA, but it looks totally different on paper. It's different in writing. It just pronounced the same. But gua also means to shave. So when we're shaving our faces, it's called 刮胡子. 刮胡子 means shave our facial hair. 胡子, Huje, means beard, whiskers, mustache, any facial hair. So 刮胡子, again, that word 刮 in this case means to shave. When you want to go to a barber shop or hair salon and you want them to do your to shave the hair on your face, you can say 刮脸. 刮脸, Gwalian. 脸 means face. 刮脸 means to shave your face. So as you can see, the word gua has there's two words of the same pronunciation. One is vegetable, melon, and the other one is to uh, shave, to scrape. So back to watermelon. Nowadays, to buy watermelon is a simple thing. A lot of time, we just go to the supermarket, Safeway, Save on Food, Costco, Walmart, wherever you go to get your produce, and you find the biggest watermelon, the best looking one. You pay for it, and you take the whole melon home, stick it in the fridge, and then eat it at your leisure. However, this was not always a thing. For hundreds and hundreds of years, Chinese people didn't buy whole watermelons, and the watermelons were not sold to the general public as a whole watermelon. Uh, the biggest reason behind this really was very simple, because people back then didn't have a good way. Because people back then didn't have a good way to preserve a whole watermelon. So if you buy a huge watermelon and you bring it home, well, it's okay if you don't cut into it, but the moment you cut, let's say you eat a quarter of it, well, what are you going to do as a rest? There wasn't saran wrap back then, and most people didn't have ice chest or refrigeration. Uh, so if you cut into it and you don't finish it, by next day or the day after, it's bad. It's gone bad. Even if it doesn't go bad, it's going to draw all kind of insects and stuff like that. So most people back then didn't buy whole watermelon because it was a clearly waste of money. So how watermelon was generally sold from top to bottom was the farmer that grew the watermelon would harvest them. They would take them to the market, the marketplace. At these marketplaces, the farmers they have little tents set up, and they come with a wagon full of watermelon. And contrary to popular belief, they don't take the watermelon into town in the morning and then take them back home at the in the night and I have to come back again tomorrow with the watermelon. No, the farmers would set up tents right there at the produce market, and they would uh, almost sit up guarding their watermelon all night long, because a lot of people did try to steal watermelon from them. Now, these watermelons were not meant to be sold to the general public. Like I said, there's no way to preserve them when you take them home and cut into them. So these watermelons were actually meant to be sold to the regular watermelon vendors. You can say that these were meant to be sold to the middlemen. Right? So early in the morning, usually 3 or 4 in the morning, the vendors who didn't own any watermelon plants or plot or land themselves, just people who maybe had a bit of money and a bicycle or a good handcart. They would come to the market and they would buy not that many, usually about 6 to 7 whole watermelon from the farmer, and then they would cut them into evenly cut, equal sized chunks, uh, put a nice clean cloth over the top, and then they would take their wagon or their hand cart or their bicycle, and they would travel from street to street, sort of like an old-fashioned idea. of an ice cream truck. How the ice cream truck nowadays travel from street to street selling ice cream. Back then, the watermelon vendor, they travel from street to street, calling out on the top of their lung for you to come and buy their freshly cut, super sweet watermelon. And by the end of the day, if they still have some slices of the watermelon left, this things started to go on discount. The buy one get one free, or uh, buy buy one and only have to pay half, and stuff like that. So a lot of people that really were frugal, they usually come out by the end of the day when they knew the vendors were getting desperate, and that's when they would buy watermelon extra cheap by the slices. But they were selling watermelon like some people sell pizza nowadays by the slices. Now, of course, that's a trade-off because if you buy your watermelon slices at the end of the day, obviously they're not going to be as fresh as when they were freshly cut in the morning. So you do pay a bit of a price for that cheaper price, and the product you get not going to be quite as fresh. Gradually, as refrigeration became more available to civilians, people started to buy whole watermelons, and vendors started to sell whole watermelons because obviously this is easier to handle. You don't have to worry about them getting contaminated because you are out there traveling all over the city. So if you cut them into slices, preserving them even just through the day was quite a difficult task. So now things got a little bit easier because they can sell whole watermelons to people. The selling of whole watermelons didn't come into effect until almost 300 years ago, about the end of the Ming Dynasty and the beginning of the Qing Dynasty. By this time, people had adequate refrigeration at home, ice chest, and other little bit semi-modern amenities that they could keep these watermelons fresh even after they cut into them. However, the selling of whole watermelon created a whole new set of problems. You see, most of the time, like I said, these watermelon farmers, after they pick the watermelon, they take them into the market square and they set up the tent there. They may camp out there for the next 3 weeks. With it, and they won't go home until their watermelons are all sold. So the problem this creates is a lot of the watermelons are perfectly fine when you pick them, but after 3 weeks of sitting there in the sun and being handled by people, a lot of them started to rot. And yes, people had proper way to refrigerate things at home, but when you're out there in the market square, it's not like they could just buy a electric cooler or portable cooler back then. So that was an issue. So what the watermelon farmers started to do was 10% of what they bring to the market would be perfectly ripened watermelon. The other 90% were actually underripe. The idea was hopefully by the time I sell the 10% that are ripe, the other ones will start to ripen and I can start selling them. But a lot of time, since now the vendors are buying whole melons and then reselling them to civilians, a lot of people don't really know if you're coming home with a ripe melon or one that is no good. Not everyone know how to tell them apart and how to judge if they're ripe or not. And when you ask the vendor, they'll always tell you this is the best melon, this is the most delicious, it's so ripe that you don't even have to cut it, stuff like that. So it's created a lot of altercations and conflict between customers and vendors. The customers will buy a watermelon, go home and cut into it and realize, hey, this thing is underripe. Well, back then there's no such thing as a receipt or anything, so if you come back and even if you find the same vendor that sold you that underripe watermelon, there's no way to force him to give you your money back. And a lot of times it caused a lot of argument and fights and brawls. So this gave rise to as far as I know, very unique Chinese tradition called the watermelon gamble. What is a watermelon gamble? Is if you want to buy a watermelon but you have doubt. Let's say I am the vendor and you come to me and you say, "Hey, Johnny Tiger, I want to buy a watermelon, but I'm not sure, man. Last time I bought one from you, it was underripe. How can you tell? How can you guarantee? How can you convince me? How can you convince me that this time it's going to be good?" And I can stand here and tell you, "No, man, the last time there's nothing wrong with it. You must have been thinking about someone else." I mean, and then we are going to stand here and argue, and then I'm going to make you an offer. I say, "Okay, tell you what, you want to do the watermelon gamble?" And you said, "What is the watermelon gamble?" And I will say, "Here, I got a knife right here. I'm going to take this watermelon and cut it right in front of you so you can see what the inside look like. Now, when after I cut it, if it looks underripe, then you don't have to buy it. Okay, it counts toward my own loss, my own losses. And that's my fault. Okay, but if I cut this open and it's perfectly good, you have to pay me twice the amount." Interestingly enough, this became a big thing. A lot of people uh, really like to gamble this way, um, and it gave birth to a lot of other roadside gaming system, little gambling games. When you purchase things, I remember when I was growing up in Taiwan, uh, there were a lot of vendors on the street that have little gambling games like that. Even when you're buying things like sausages or wonton or pot stickers, a lot of them would have a little gambling game set up. So they say, "Hey, you want to do the pot sticker gamble? You want to do the wonton gamble? You want to do the banana gamble? Whatever they're selling." That's it. They say, "You want to do the gamble?" I say, "Okay, how does it work?" And they say, "You give me, you you give me $5, and then uh, because the whatever you're buying, let's say you're buying $5 worth of pot sticker, so you give me $5, so the amount for the pot sticker, and we'll roll this die or we'll draw a card, each draw a card. However, so if you win, if you roll bigger than me, or if a card is bigger than mine, then I give you twice the amount of pot sticker. If mine is bigger and than yours, then you don't get any pot sticker. There were vendors that even made the stake even higher by having you draw lot. Like they put a bunch of uh, uh, paper stubs in a box, and you reach in to draw like a sort of like a 50-50 draw, and you can if you pay $5 and you want to do the draw, you can either draw a paper that say you don't get anything, then you lose your $5. Or you can get a paper that say 3 times pot sticker plus a free drink, and then the vendor have to give you 3 times the amount of pot sticker and the free drinks. Uh, I remember one big scandal, one really big altercation I actually witnessed when I was a child was a guy who paid $2. He wanted $2 worth of pot stickers, and then he decided to draw from the box of paper stubs, and he drew something that said free pot sticker for the rest of the month. And the, the vendor was so angry and didn't want to honor the deal, and they got into a big fight, and the police got involved, and there was a big crackdown on these gambling games. But of course, there's no way for you to really regulate these. These little gambling games have been around ever since the original watermelon gamble. Thank you for checking out today's Wisdom Wednesday. Hopefully, after this episode, you feel like some nice, fresh watermelon. And if you do have some, I hope you enjoy them. We'll be back again tomorrow for Toy Thursday. And you just know we're probably going to be looking at something Star Wars related. For now, 谢谢 and 再见.